Greetings, chess players, and welcome to another exciting episode of To the Point, the chess program where we examine crimes in the opening and discover the most exact tactical punishments. I am your host, Chris Torres, and today we will be looking at an exciting game between two great masters of chess. The player with the white pieces was a famous chess master by the name of Richard Reti. Reti was born on May 28, 1889, and was an Austro-Hungarian and later Czechoslovakian chess player who was one of the strongest players alive during the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Before World War I, Richard Reti's style was that of a feared attacking chess player. However, after the war, Reti's style became very strategic, and he became a principal proponent in the hyper-modern chess movement. To this day, I still teach Reti's famous endgame study to hundreds of students each year. The black side was played by Masterfully Tartakower. Tartakower, who is one of my favorite chess authors, is also sadly on the losing side of many of my favorite chess lesson games. In his defense, I like to point out that he won the Hastings tournaments of 1927 and 1928 and tied for first with Aaron Nimzowitsch at the 1927 London tournament. In the 1930s, Tartakower represented Poland in 6 chess Olympiads and France in 1950, winning 3 individual medals, as well as 5 team medals. A doctor of law, who is a prolific chess author, Masterfully Tartakower fought in and survived both world wars, eventually dying in 1956 at the age of 68. As we noted in our first episode of To the Point, Vienna is an important cultural center and was home to many of my favorite composers, including Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Ludwig van Beethoven, and of course Johann Strauss II, who wrote the Blue Danube Waltz about the beautiful Blue Danube River which runs through Vienna. Our game today features the recurring theme of slow development in the opening being severely punished. But before we look at the game, let's review our 10 opening rules. Number 1, open with a center pawn. Number 2, develop with threats. Number 3, knights before bishops. Number 4, don't move the same piece twice. Number 5, make as few pawn moves as possible in the opening. Number 6, don't bring your queen out too early. Number 7, castle as soon as possible, preferably on the king side. Number 8, always play to gain control of the center. Number 9, try to maintain at least one pawn in the center. Number 10, don't sacrifice without a clear and adequate reason. And now to today's feature game, Richard Reti versus Masterfully Tartakower, Vienna, 1910. Enjoy. 1e4. Reti opens with the center pawn. 1c6. Tartakower does not. This is known as the Caracan defense. 2d4. When your opponent does not match your center pawn, go ahead and get 2. 2d5. Black challenges white's center supremacy. 3 knight c3. Rather than exchange pawns and have only an equal share of the center, Reti develops a knight. 3 dx e4. Tartakower takes the e-pawn, which is part of the Caracan strategy. 4 knight takes e4. Reti takes back, giving him an extra pawn in the center and an extra piece developed. 4 knight f6. Bishop f5 has for a long time been considered the best move for black here. However, it seems Tartakower is playing what is now known as the Bronstein-Larsen variation, named after two famously unorthodox players. 5. Queen d3. Reti develops the queen where it cannot be threatened in order to castle as soon as possible. 5e5. Since Tartakower is behind in development, he should not be attempting to open up the center. A better strategy would be to develop a second piece to even up the numbers. Furthermore, a developing move such as knight b to d7 would also conform to the Caracal strategy, whereas an early e5 does not. For example, had Tartakower played 5 knight b to d7, Reti could play 6 knight f3, and then Tartakower could play knight takes e4, queen takes e4 of course. And now Tartakower could play 7 knight f6, reloading the knight with a threat that seems to give white an interesting dilemma as to where his queen should relocate to. But Tartakower did not play 5 knight b to d7. He played 5e5. 6 dx e5. Reti gladly accepts his opponent's center pawn with tempo, meaning white's pawn is now threatening black's knight, so eventually black will have to lose a move, relocating his knight. 6 queen a5. Tartakower hopes this check and fork, followed by qx e5, will save him from being down a pawn and a tempo. 7 bishop d2. Reti interposes the check with his bishop and is now ready to castle. 7 qx e5. As expected, Tartakower regains the pawn, but at the price of being down in development and behind in the race to castle. 8 castle queenside. Reti now has 4 pieces developed, it's castled, and his queen and rook are operating in an open file. 8 knight takes e4. Moving the same piece twice again is Tartakower's final mistake. Being unable to castle and behind in development, bishop e7 was the best way to address black's troubles. For example, had Tartakower played 8 bishop e7, Reti would have played knight takes f6 check, queen takes f6, knight f3, black can now castle, bishop g5, and queen e6. This was likely black's best continuation. However, getting back to the main game, after 8 knight takes e4, can you spot white's most punishing move? Be sure to analyze your checks, captures, and threats. I will give you a hint in that it is a forced mate in 3 and exactly 1 minute to locate it. Nine queen to d8, check. Bam! A beautiful move that you only spot if you analyze all of your checks, captures, and threats. 9 king takes d8. Tartakower sees the end of the game now, but had no other choice than to capture or resign. The gentleman that he was, he allows Reti to finish his masterful combination. 10 bishop g5 check, and Tartakower plays 10 king c7. Can you spot Reti's final move? It is a checkmate in one. I will give you 10 seconds. Bishop d8 checkmate. It is worth noting that after 10 bishop g5, Tartakower could have played 10 king to e8, but then Reti would have had the more standard opera house checkmate. Instead, after 10 bishop g5, 10 king c7, and then 11 bishop d8 checkmate, concludes in a rare style of checkmate, which has become known from this game as Reti's mate. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and episode of To the Point. If you want to know more about other beautiful checkmating patterns, be sure to check out our series called Checking Time. Also, be sure to check out our webpage, dailychessmusings.com, for thousands of free lessons. And be sure to follow Daily Chess Musings on YouTube. As always, I appreciate it when you like our videos and leave your questions in the comments. I have been your host, Chris Torres, and this has been another exciting episode of To the Point. Thank you and have a good week.